Hi everyone. Just got back from the gym on Saturday. The body is not feeling so good as I grow older, so I think we have to exercise so that we feel better and keeps the mind sharp. Right. So yeah. So today I just want to share a little bit more about some of the issues that we have experienced in our company, and the topic would be called tough decision making. Right. So I want to talk a little bit about my background as a professional poker player. Right. So we play a lot of hands and we have a lot of thinking that's involved, and I think that has kind of helped us to make decisions in business. Right. And I'm going to take a few of those things and apply in business, so that it can help you to understand how to better make all these tough decisions. Right. So the first thing I think we should acknowledge is that they are tough. And for the purpose of this example, I'm just going to use two alternative situations. So it's like one or two, right? So there will not be three or four. Okay, and no matter which one you choose, you will end up uncomfortable. You will end up with a lot of problems, right? And the only reason why you took that situation, that alternative, is because the other alternative is worse, right? There's even more problems and even more uncomfortable. Okay, and I want to talk about the kind of human problems. Right. When I say human problems, I actually mean everyone is kind of affected by this. I've been spending some time talking to my friends about this, and we realized that there were a few problems that everyone had. Right. It's not specific to individuals, but a general human thing. Okay. And I've spotted 5 issues that always affects your decision making. So you have to be aware, so that because they are going to affect you, right? So one of them is cultural beliefs. Means that what you were taught when you were young by your parents and the environment around you, they affect your decision making. Okay, lack of experience, right? I think, and of course lack of education. I think they come hand in hand. Whenever you're doing something new, you always lack experience and education. And how are you going to deal with that? Because it's something new, right? And of course, pain of loss. Right? Success is not doesn't feel as strong as the pain of the same monetary loss. Okay, let me show you what I mean. If you lose $100, it's more painful than the success of making $100, right? And that kind of messes with your brain and causes you to make the wrong decision, right? Because you would rather don't lose 100 than make 200, right? So you end up not making the right decision. And I think one more very important problem is the time difference. Okay, you see, the human memory is very short, right? If you make a mistake this year, and then 1 or 2 years later the same problem occurs, you think it's a new problem. You cannot remember that actually 1-2 years ago there was a similar problem that has happened. And even if it has happened, you cannot really recall, and chances are you think that is different. Right? So it's very difficult to compare a situation that is 2 years apart, and because you cannot remember. Right? So I'm going to talk about 3 examples and how to manage them. So the first example is not from me. The first example is from Starbucks, Howard Schultz. There was this problem. The coffee beans prices ran up because there was a frost in Brazil, and it used to be, I think, 60-70 cents, and at some point in time it went all the way up to $2, which is a very serious problem, because the coffee bean is they use quality beans, and from 70 cents to $2 is a 3 times price increase, and that's a $1 billion company. It can actually go bankrupt, right? And then they were thinking whether to buy more or not to buy more, right? So it went up to $2. They end up buying a whole bunch, right? And then, because they were afraid that the price would go up to $4. But alternatively, they also knew that the price could go back down to 50 cents or 60 cents, right? Right? And of course, the consumers end up paying more because of the $2 beans, which was otherwise 70 cents. Okay, and they decided to go ahead to buy this bulk of $2. And as it turns out, it didn't go up to $4, it went back down, right? So everyone in the company was very affected by this, because, at that point in time, a few months later, when the coffee prices were back to $1, you guys, Starbucks, had this whole bunch of 6 months or 1 year worth of inventory right at the peak. You are an idiot. People tell Howard Schultz that, right? And what happens is that people do not understand the other thing that could have happened, which is that they didn't buy at $2, right? And the price went up to $4. Starbucks would have been bankrupt. Right? So you notice that actually both situations, whether Howard Schultz bought or didn't buy the beans, he would still be blamed. Either the company was bankrupt, or the customers ended up paying more for the beans. Both are undesirable situations. Bankrupt or customer pay more, right? But of course, customer pay more is better than bankrupt. but then people will be upset and they will blame you, right? So I realized that that's been happening in my company also. No matter what I do, I always get blamed. Or more blame, right? So I've learned to accept that as part of decision making, because people can get emotional, especially when you're handling a very difficult situation, and no matter how you do it, you will get blamed. Which is why I think the business leader is very important, because that is the guy that always makes the important decisions that people don't dare to make, and then after you make it, you get blamed. Doesn't matter which is the outcome, you still get blamed. Okay, so let's talk about the next situation. Would be stocks. Right, so we are deciding to say, let's say, to buy $2,000 worth of stocks, or not to buy, which means that you could actually run out of stocks and lose sales, right? So one piece of item that we cost us $2 and sells at $20. So that's a 10 times different, right? From $2 to $20, right? So if I buy too much stock, there is a problem that my fulfillment center is unhappy with me. I end up having to throw it away, right? So I lose $2,000. Or alternatively, I could have not bought the $2,000 in stocks and I ran out and I lose $20,000 in sales, right? Okay. And now I'm the fulfillment, I'm the supplier, I'm the guy that's in charge of ordering supplier, and I'm new, right? So you tell me $2,000, I have to throw away. $2,000, one meal is $5. $2,000 is, how many meals is that? 400 over meals. That's a lot of money, right? My mom taught me that I should not waste money, right? So I decide to not. So you see, it's based on cultural values, right? It doesn't really calculate the 20,000 in sales, okay? That was lost. And what happened is that I decided not to order, and now what happens? You see, that's the challenging thing. Nothing happens because the campaigns gets paused, and that $20,000 in sales just doesn't come in, right? But actually the company lost $20,000, right? But the thing is that $2,000 that was thrown away, the pain was felt. You actually saw the product and you are aware that this $2,000 of product has gone from your warehouse into the dustbin. It feels very painful. But let's say you are doing $220,000 in sales, right? And you're spending 100K in ads. You make 120K profit. And that was last month. And this month, because of your mistake, you also spend 100,000 in ads and you make 200,000 in profit, 20,000 missing. But hey, that is a 100% ROI, that's very good, right? But you forgot that was an additional $20,000 there. You see, the decision making goes a little bit off. And look, I saved $2,000, I ended up not throwing away goods, I'm now in line with what my mom and dad taught me, right? But they forgot that loss in sales is very hard to see, you see. So this is what our training in poker has taught us, right? This $20,000 in sales, it never actually appears on your balance sheet as a loss, right? In fact, it just doesn't appear. That's why it's so elusive and you have to spend time thinking about it, right? And you have to be aware of the things that could happen, and the problem is that it never actually happens, right? If you keep saving this money and you don't order the stocks, you keep running out of stocks, you convince yourself that you are correct, and you never actually see that $20,000 come in, right? And when it comes in, it's together with 100 other things that are happening together with the company, right? You don't just order stocks, you're doing a lot of other stuff, and your income also varies. You're not aware, right? So that's why you have to. That's why the poker player in me kind of helps me to visualize all these things that doesn't actually happen on paper. Okay, now I want to talk about a third situation, which is employee management, right? So suppose there's this guy that has been around with you for a few months, and his work is okay, not particularly fantastic, doesn't suck, but for some problem he hasn't been appearing in work, but he's a well-liked individual, okay, or at least okay, And after a while, we realized that we have to think about whether we have to let him go, right? And of course, now this guy has changed and he's giving problems, he's affecting the company, right? And we are deciding to fire him or not, right? So fire or don't fire. You see, the problem with firing is that we may be viewed as being too strict, right? Of course, there's a problem with this guy and everybody has recognized it, It's not like I'm firing him and he's actually very well. Like, no, that's not the case. There's already some kind of problem going on and he's not a top value employee. He's like maybe just the average that you can, right? And people are concerned in a company, if you are now like that and I become like that, I'm going to lose my job, right? And why don't you give him a chance? Right? I mean, of course, we have already given him a chance, 2 or 3 chances. So we are not talking about the first chance. We're talking about the 4th or the 5th chance to the same guy, right? And people can get worried. And if I fire, so what happened is I end up firing this guy, right? So people get worried because I have my health insurance, I have my a job. I've been here for 1.5 years. Maybe I could have just become this guy. And then I lose my job, and then their work productivity ends up going down, and I get blamed for firing this employee, right? So it's easy to think that because you felt the pain, right? Because what happens is that I think this probably happened somewhere around 2014, right? 2014, right? And everybody was saying that, oh, you should give him a chance, blah blah. Actually, we end up giving him a chance, and we fired him anyway because it didn't work out. Okay, but then in 2015, another thing happened. Instead of firing the guy, which was another guy, we allowed him to stay and tried to improve him. So we avoided the problem of people being a little bit jittery because we fired this guy, his health insurance is gone, his job security is gone. Okay? And what happened is that the situation became even worse. We suffered cultural damage in the company. Why? Because this guy was not coming to work on time, he's an individualist, he doesn't want to share. So the company culture we have is supposed to be very friendly, willing to share, come to work on time, or at least there's a sense of responsibility. And when we kept this guy, what happened was that the sense of responsibility kind of eroded. People started not coming in, becoming irresponsible, becoming don't want to share. So it's a very, very serious problem. The whole company performance gets affected, work cannot get done. Almost as serious as going bankrupt, right? 10 times to 100 times more serious than the other alternative situation where we fired the guy and people became jittery, right? But the problem is that the first situation where I fired the employee happened in 2014, and the cultural damage suffered was in 2015. And when you make a mistake to keep the employee, let's say in January, the cultural damage is not obvious. It's only by June. You see, your culture in the company is usually very strong, so it takes a while to erode. So a wrong decision in January 2015 only realizes in June 2015. And all you know is that you have a cultural damage in the company and you don't know why. Right? Because you cannot, your mind doesn't remember 6 months back when you make a decision to keep that guy that was the mistake. Right? And also you cannot remember your correct decision in 2014 to fire the guy because your cultural damage didn't happen in the company in 2014. In fact, people only remember the pain from the firing of the individual and the threatening of their job security and their social health insurance. You see the problem here? Okay? So after mentioning about all this, right, what is the recommendation? There must be something to help you to make all these decisions better, right? I think one of the most important things is awareness, right? Because everybody's situation can be a little different, but knowing that it's actually happening to you and not thinking that this is just unique to me and doesn't apply to anyone else, see, that's called a lack of awareness, right? So awareness is number one. You need to know that it's actually happening to you in some way. You just need to look out for it, right? So I think that's number one. I think the next thing is you must be also aware of the situation being present and also aware of your own cultural beliefs, right? The way that you were taught, how it's actually affecting your decision. Like for example, I'm Chinese, I'm born in Singapore, I'm taught to value relationships, right? So what happens is that I overvalue relationships all the time, right? And I undervalue creativity and individualism because that's from America, right? So I have to ask myself all the time, okay, I know that I have a problem with overvaluing relationships. So which are the relationships that are actually valuable and which are the ones I overvalue? Because I'm Chinese. And alternatively, I also should ask myself, I undervalue individualism and creativity. So which are the guys that are actually quite individualistic and quite creative, which I think are not as good because of my cultural beliefs, and I promote them in my mind, right, to give them more credit than I think they deserve. So that's how I manage my cultural beliefs. Okay, and the next thing is the fear of loss, the pain of loss. You always have the pain of loss, especially as the business leader in the company, right? It's either more or very much, right? And no point in time is less. So I think how I manage that is that I try to remind myself why I'm doing this, right? Because as the guy who makes a lot of critical decisions, you are always faced under pressure and blame, regardless of whether it's right or wrong, until the success is here. And I think it's important that you remind yourself why you are here. the pain of loss is always there, but you need something greater than that to help you to overcome that. You need to remember why you're willing to go through such pain. There must be something more important than the pain of loss that allows you to think clearly, even though you know you're going to get blamed very badly, right? And for me, that is the environment that I'm in. I appreciate that because of this business, I'm able to spend time with my friends and family and see all my good friends, right? And that is very important to me, that my friends are doing well and we get to spend time together. And that puts the blame, I mean, my friends are actually blaming me. That puts the blame and the fear of loss and the pain of loss to become so small, because I actually experienced periods of time where I almost lost the time with my friends, and you start to realize that actually that pain and fear of loss is nothing compared to what you are chasing after in your business, which is why you need the vision. Okay. And I think the last thing here is the memory problems, right? When you face a problem, chances are somebody has faced it before, or you yourself has faced it before 1 or 2 years ago, right? So what happens is you need to reflect, right? So for me, I meditate almost every day, right? And you don't have to do anything when you meditate. Your thoughts will just keep flashing back, and you will start to realize, hey, I did this before, I did that before, I did all these hundreds of things before, thousands, millions of things that you have done. And then slowly ask yourself why it was the right or the wrong decision, right? A lot of reflection, and then when it finally happens, you have this sense of enlightenment. Suddenly, when a lot of things happen, you start to be able to see them in a much clearer light, right? So yeah, that's all I have to share with you. Thank you very much for watching.